What do we have here? This is the new XP Pen Artist 16 3rd Gen. I love this size of tablet. 16 inches is the perfect size for me, and this is based on the 12-inch XP Pen Artist tablet that came out last year. So let's take a look at this.
This is Brad. He likes to review the tech. He also likes to draw. And this here is his theme song.
The cringy theme songs will continue until every last one of you has hit subscribe. So I'll say this up front. This is a really good product. I have no problems recommending it. It does all of the things it sets out to do, and it does them pretty well. XP Pen is trying to keep the price reasonable, so they haven't packed in a ton of like the higher end features that I'm often looking for. And it makes sense because they're trying to find that balance between price and quality. And in fact, they just lowered the price by $80, because when I bought this 2 weeks ago, it was $400. I'm not mad. Maybe a little disappointed though. I'll link that down below in the description, along with any other products that I compare this to within this video. But do know that this does go on sale from time to time, so make sure you check the price before you actually buy it. Don't be like Brad. XP Pen has a Pro line of tablets. Those are the ones that have all of the bells and the whistles. And then they have their Value line of tablets. This is their 3rd generation of their Value line of tablets. They released a 12-inch version of this display about a year ago. Actually, it was last fall. And this brings over that design from that 12-inch version over to this larger 16-inch version. So this is bringing the same slim design, the buttons over on the left-hand side with the little spinny dial things, the same thinness, the same connections, the same stand. But not a lot really comes in the box. You have the tablet, you have the stand, you have the pen, you have the instruction manuals, you have the cords that you need to plug this in to your computer, because yes, this is not a standalone device. You do need to plug this into a Mac or a PC. Also works on Android and Linux. You have the instruction manuals, and oh, look at this, a drawing glove. So looking at this design, I think the most prominent thing are these buttons along the side. Now, all of this is totally customizable by setting up the drivers for this tablet and playing around with these in the settings. The example I always use is that I like to use the dials for things like zooming in, maybe set one to rotate. The other one I might set to changing my brush size so I can just scale my brush in and out really easily. And then the buttons I'm setting things to undo. One might be for the eraser, the other one might be to toggle over to the brush tool. And I like these dials because they're not loose. They have this really satisfying click to them. Hear that? Oh, that's nice. And one thing I wish a lot of other companies would start to copy is the pen magnetically snaps to the top. This is something you see on iPads and Android tablets, but I haven't seen it on too many display tablets like this. Now, I was able to connect this to my computer using a single USB Type-C cord. That was enough to give the data across from the tablet to the computer, and also enough to power the tablet itself. And it's really nice when you have something this thin that can get powered with one cord. It makes it kind of really easy to move around your desk. And that is part of the reason why I like this 16-inch size, is because it's big enough that you can see everything on the screen, but it's small enough where you can maneuver it and kind of move it around. I can slide it out of the way when I'm not using it. Now, if you want to use this as an extra monitor, you can. 16 inches is kind of nice. But the one downside is that this stand, it only sits at this one angle. This is kind of a, I wouldn't call it a flimsy fold-out stand, but it's a pretty lightweight fold-out stand. So you'd have to get a different stand if you want to set this up at an actual monitor angle and use it as a second monitor when you're not drawing. And unlike some of their larger Pro tablets, this doesn't have like a VESA mount along the back, so it's not going to fit on an arm or that sort of thing. This is one of the corners that they cut with this kind of lower end line. Now, if your computer can't support a single cord connection, it does come with a second cord, and that has multiple outlets in it. So you got an HDMI and you got 2 USBs on one side, and then the other side of the cord goes along the side of your computer. And understanding that you're going to need 2 USB Type A ports in order to like actually use this thing if you're using an older computer that doesn't have a newer USB Type C port. Also in the box is just this little package of nibs. Now, as you're drawing with this over time, your nibs are going to wear out. I know some people who go through nibs like candy. They just blow through the things because they tend to press really hard when they draw. For me, I maybe change out my nib, once, maybe twice a year. And so a package of nibs like this is going to last me a really long time, and you can always go on XP Pen's website and get more if you need them. Let's talk about this screen. This is a full HD screen that's 1920 by 1080. Now, At a 16-inch size, this resolution is starting to show its age a little bit. If you're used to looking at like an Android tablet, iPad, even your phone, that has a higher pixel density, and so you don't see pixels on many newer devices. This one you still will. Many of these newer devices have been going up to higher resolutions, like 1440p. The Huion Canvas 16, for example, is one that has done that. However, that device also will cost you $150 to $200 more than what this costs. So it's another one of those areas that's a little bit of a trade-off here. You're not getting quite as nice of a screen, but you're saving some money in the process. Another area where you see a little bit of a cutback on the price here is that this is only a 60 hertz screen. It's not 90 hertz or 120 hertz, one of those higher refresh rate displays. I thought the screen itself, though, looked pretty decent here. We have some good color ranges. 99% sRGB, 98% Adobe RGB, 97% display P3. I don't think this display is going to set the world on fire. It's not like the most amazing thing you've ever seen, but I think for the price, it's pretty darn solid. The colors look pretty good. When I bring up my Mario drawing on it, the reds don't blow out. I get a nice subtle gradation in the areas where I expect to see it. This is a matte coated display, which I think all of XP Pen's displays are. This is pretty normal for the drawing tablet space, and what that's going to do is it's going to dull the colors a little bit, is going to dull the contrast. It's not going to pop quite as much as a glossy screen, but there are some benefits here. The main one being is how the pen feels when you're drawing on that screen. That little bit of extra texture is going to give your pen a little bit more grip than a glossy screen would. That's part of the reason they do it. Another reason you see these matte displays on a lot of creative displays is the thinking goes is that if you can make your art look good on a matte display, it's going to look even better on a glossy display. But if you make it look good on a glossy display, might not necessarily look as good on a matte display. And then there's the pen that this comes with. Obviously, it's designed for art and illustration. If you're just getting into that sort of thing and you've thought, man, it would be fun to take an art class and learn some new skills, check out my website where I have my course, Learn to Draw in 60 Days. It's exactly what it sounds like. With every day, there's a video lesson and then some homework to go along with it, and it's designed to give you the foundation you need to take on harder tutorials later on. If you'd like to learn more, go over to my website where you see that course and my Intro to Digital Art course, which is all about brushes and techniques and that sort of thing, and you can learn more there, bradsartschool.com. So what about this pen? Well, when I was testing it out, I thought it felt pretty good. This isn't too much of a surprise. I've been using these XP pens for a while. This is using their X4 technology, they call it. It has a really good initial activation rate. What does that mean? It means that if you're drawing really lightly with it, it's going to pick that up. It's going to find that. It's one of the better pens out there for that sort of thing. I'm not a super light drawer, so it's not something I use, but I have heard other people talk about how much they love that. And the pressure sensitivity in general works really well. It doesn't seem to blow out anywhere on the pressure curve, and it kind of reacts the way you expect it to react when you're using it. I think that's the main thing that I'm looking for with pressure. And you find that in a lot of pens where when it doesn't work quite right, you can't quite put your finger on why, but you know it's not right. This isn't a problem here. When I was doing my slow angled line test, I could pick up just a very faint wave. This is an area where XP Pen has just been getting a little better and a little better and a little better over time. And here we see it again, just that kind of continued improvement. If you want to knock it out, it's really easy to knock out with a little bit of stroke stabilization, but oftentimes if there's too much wave, what ends up happening is you have to turn up that stabilization so much that it starts to add too much lag to the pen. Now, one thing that I did run into with an XP Pen product, one of their larger tablets a few months ago, is it did have a lot of lag. Although, that may have just been a me problem, because other reviewers weren't having that problem, and when I was watching their videos, it was pretty clear that they weren't having that problem. When I was using this, I wasn't really noticing it. Obviously in Photoshop there's some lag because Photoshop kind of sucks, but when I was using other drawing programs, it wasn't appearing there either, at least no more than usual. So where in the world does this compare to other things like Wacom and Huion and other devices in this range? Well, on the Wacom side of this, they have the Wacom Cintiq 16. It's a really good product, but it's going to be significantly more expensive than this. However, you are getting their Pro Pen 3. That also has a 1440p resolution, resolution. So if you're looking for a screen that's a little bit better than this one, right? You're not going to see pixels as much when you're looking down at it because you have that higher resolution. That might be a good one to look at. Another one that's worth looking at, one of my favorite displays of last year was the Huion Canvas 16. It is very, very similar to this display, the way that it has buttons along the side, it has 2 dials. The screen is very similar in terms of colors and that sort of thing, but the one area where it does improve on this device is that it also has a 1440p display. It's going to come in price underneath the Wacom, but above this XP Pen. It's kind of that middle ground tablet. I think that's the reason I like it. However, it is going to cost you. It's $150 more than what this costs. Again, make sure you do your price checking before you actually go and buy, because oftentimes both this and the Huion go on sale quite often. But overall, I think this is a good device. Is it one that I would use every day? Probably not, because personally I'm going to want to go with a higher resolution. But the pen is definitely good enough. The size is really nice. And if you're on a budget and you want a 16-inch tablet, this is probably the one I would go for if you can't afford the Huion. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.